Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing another installment of my author spotlight, and I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to be talking about Celeste Ng, spelled Ng, pronounced Ing. She's one of my favorite writers, and she only has 2 novels out so far, but both of them are 5-star reads for me, and I just love her. I only have a copy of one of her books, Everything I Never Told You, because I read her other one. It was a library copy, so I do need to get my hands on her other one, but I love them both. So for some background information, Celeste Ng grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Shaker Heights, Ohio, which I think is pretty cool that she set her book in Shaker Heights. Little Fires Everywhere. I just thought that was pretty neat. She is based in Massachusetts now, and she graduated from Harvard, which is awesome, and got her MFA from the University of Michigan. So she has spent a lot of time in formal education, like honing her craft. As is the case with Madeline Miller from my last author spotlight, Celeste Ng's website is super awesome. It's full of interviews, an about me section, a whole page dedicated to like her essays and short stories. So I would definitely check it out if you like her writing and you want to see some other stuff that she's done. Speaking of her short stories, I will be talking about one today because I just recently read it. It's called Girls at Play, but she has several on her website that I plan to read soon, and I recommend them to you too if you want to read more of her. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with Everything I Never Told You because it is the only book I have of hers. This was her first novel, and it was the first one I read. I actually didn't hear about her when I saw this book. I was at my local bookstore in college, just kind of browsing the shelves, and I thought this was really pretty. It kind of gave me a like YA vibe. I don't know, maybe the font, but it was not what I was expecting when I read the back. I'm just gonna read the first little sentence of the blurb on the back. Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. That's actually how the book opens. That's not what I was expecting at all when I first saw the cover, but it intrigued me because I do love to read true crime, so I grabbed it, and I'm so glad I did because she's now one of my favorite writers. If you haven't heard of Everything I Never Told You, it is about a Chinese American family. The mom is white, the dad is Chinese. They grow up in a suburban town in Ohio in the 1970s. And a lot of this kind of examines the complexities of being mixed race in suburban America in the 1970s. But the story centers on the favorite daughter. I think, yeah, she's the middle daughter, Lydia. And she's like the overachiever, does well in school, pretty, got the good features from both parents, and one day they find her body in the local lake, and it basically is her family trying to figure out what happened, but they also, with grief comes the re-examining of the other familial relationships. So it's like the other 2 kids trying to find their kind of answers to what happened, and like the young daughter was often overlooked when Lydia was alive, and then from the older brother's perspectives, and the parents also struggle between themselves. The dad has kind of goes on a destructive path, and the mom loses herself while trying to piece together what happened, and it's just a lot of layers. Very sad in some parts, frustrating in parts, but overall it's such a good book. It is really sad, but it's a great look at the realities that a lot of mixed race families face, and like questions that they ask themselves and are asked by others. It's a great look at complex family situation. Like the parent-kid relationships are explored, identity and expectations are explored. I thought, especially for her first novel, it was just super great. It's pretty short too. I think I read it in a couple of days, but super good, definitely worth your time. I think this one, I don't hear as much about this one as I do with her second novel, Little Fires Everywhere. I think mostly that one, I mean, that one was adapted for TV. so I think that's why more people have probably read it. But I do think this one is underrated. So if you have already read her other book, or if you've never read anything by Celeste Ng, I would definitely recommend this one for sure. But be warned, it is really sad. I mean, it's about death and like grieving family and racism in suburban America and prejudice, a lot of heavy themes. So it weighs on you a little bit, but it's worth it. And it's, you know, it's redemptive in some parts, right? Like they go through stuff, but I mean, I'm not gonna give it away, but just read it. On to Little Fires Everywhere. As I said, I don't have a copy of this one, unfortunately, but I will put a picture here somewhere. As I also mentioned before, I think this one is the most popular of the two books because they did turn it into a TV series with Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington, so two huge names. I think definitely helped with popularity. I haven't watched the TV series yet. I need to. I'm slacking, but I've heard pretty good things about it. Let me know if you've watched it and what you think, like compared to the book, like how well they did, because adaptations are kind of tricky sometimes. If you don't know what Little Fires Everywhere is about, this is the one that's set in the town where Celeste Ng grew up, Shaker Heights, Ohio. I think it's a pretty small suburban city. It's set up as this seemingly perfect place with successful families, and everyone does things a certain way, everything's planned out, and the main family is the Richardson family. The main characters being the mom, Elena, I believe it's pronounced. I haven't watched the show, so I don't know. Elena and her 4 kids, and then things are kind of thrown off kilter when Mia Warren and her daughter Pearl move in. They actually rent a house from the Richardson family, so they are, right off the bat, they spend a lot of time together because they're renting from them. And Elena's the kind of person that wants to kind of know everything that's going on and control stuff, so she tries to take Mia under her wing. And then Pearl also gets close to the Richardson kids. They all have very different relationships with her. Mia's an artist, so her and Pearl have always lived kind of differently. They travel a lot, they bounce around from house to house, and they kind of just change everything when they meet the Richardson family. So while all that's going on, there's also a controversy in the city where this family's trying to adopt a Chinese baby. But it's been a while since I read this, but I believe the mom changed her mind, or she wants the baby or something. There's two sides to it. There's the side that's on the family who's trying to adopt side, and then there's like the birth mother side. And of course, the Richardsons and the Warrens are split on that end, so that causes trouble, especially as Elena, liking to control everything, wants to know more about Mia and her past, and then that just brings up all this other stuff. So again, just like with Everything I Never Told You, this book has so many layers. There's a lot going on, but it all is relevant and connected, and it was so well written, very touching, and really makes you think about a lot of the issues that it brings up. For some reason, this one has a lot of mixed reviews, and I don't know if it's the way Celeste Ng writes or how she paces her stories, but I feel like a lot of people just couldn't connect with it, which, I mean, I get, because her books, there's a lot of build up, you have to get the backstory and everything, but I personally love how she writes. And there were times when I was reading this where I was like, what? She jumps through time sometimes, so she'll all of a sudden be like talking about stuff that happens 20 years from now, and it's just, I just love it. I think it's so creative how she writes. If you read negative reviews about it, I would take it with a grain of salt, because it's a personal preference. So I would just give it a try yourself and not really rely on reviews, because I don't know, I think it's different for everyone. You can't always trust a review to tell you how you're gonna feel about it, you know? In a nutshell, it's about motherhood, secrets, identity, familial relationships again. Celeste Ng writes a lot about family dynamics, so if you're into that, you're probably going to like her books. So on to her short stories. As I said earlier, I've only read one of her short stories, but it was a doozy, and I plan to read all the ones she has on her website. I have it open right here. She has like 1, 2, 3, 4. She has 4 on there, so I've read 1 out of 4 on here. On the same page, There's a bunch of essays too, so if you like nonfiction writing, she has plenty of that. But the short story that I recently read is titled Girls at Play. The subject matter is pretty disturbing, so there's your warning. But it's about preteens, or they're 12 and 13-year-olds, and they do a lot of grown-up things for their age. They play this kissing game, whatever, with the boys on the playground, and they shoplift and dress provocatively. And then one day a new girl comes to school, and her name is Grace, and she is a little younger and a lot more naive and innocent. You learn a lot in those years, your formative years, and learn adult things. Her innocence allows them to be innocent again for a moment. So it's just, I like that part a lot. But yeah, obviously like young girls doing mature things is gonna be upsetting, especially a lot of the negative comments in the reviews on this were from like parents who were like really upset by it. But I mean, it does happen for some more than others. Like you learn things and you are exposed to things. So it's disturbing, I think, because it is real. I mean, even if it is exaggerated a little bit, like stuff like this happens, you know what I mean? I thought it was really well written, and short stories are supposed to pack a punch in the small amount of time. And that's how you know someone's good at writing short stories, when they can craft a narrative and evoke feelings in like 8 pages. Another great example of how Celeste Ng can write a powerful story. So that is all that I have on Celeste Ng. I will definitely be reading the rest of her short fiction on her website and her essays. And I encourage you to do the same if you've already read both of her books. If you haven't read any of her books, I would definitely encourage that as well, because she's an amazing writer and I can't wait to see what else she does in the future. Bonus points if you notice Day up here taking a nap throughout this whole time. And I'll see you guys next time.